Good afternoon, everyone. You're listening to the CaMMVets Radio Report on WVOX AM 1416 and around the world on WVOX.com. This is Jack McGuirk and Ken Fraser bringing you this half-hour discussion of issues related to veterans and the active military. Now, here's Ken.
Hey, Jack. Thanks very much. Good afternoon, everyone listening to Sons. Well, we're not Sons of American Legion Radio anymore. We're CaMMVets Media, and that stands for Cadets, Midshipmen, the Military, and Veterans. And it is a surprisingly drizzly day here at Broadcast Forum in New Rochelle. And so we're getting towards the end of the summer. Saturday I was up at Army football practice. I thought they looked pretty good. A lot of players in depth on offense, especially with Tyree Tyler appearing to be the starting quarterback, but Coach Munkin's talking about playing multiple quarterbacks. They got a bit of a hole, I would say, an inside linebacker, which they're seeking to fill, filling the shoes of Eric Smith, who was just a tremendous player, and also Colin Cockrell right in front of them, Nolan Cockrell right in front of them, nose guard, defensive tackle. So they've got players. I think they're going to be ready for their opener. It's a tough place to start, Coastal Carolina, team that's been in bowl games, I think, the last 4 years. So it's going to be interesting. In the second half of the show, we're going to have Major General Clay Hutmacher calling in. He is now the president and CEO of the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, a wonderful charity based in Florida that provides scholarships and mentoring to children of fallen Special Operations members. They have 200 children in the program. The last I heard, so we'll get an update. Jack, you got a lot of notes there.
Yeah, I'll start off with the situation in Ukraine. New video has emerged online showing Russian military vehicles inside a turbine hall connected to a nuclear reactor at Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia power plant, where intensified shelling has fueled fears of a nuclear disaster. Pro-Russian officials said there were several artillery strikes in the area around the plant on Thursday evening. UN Chief Antonio Guterres said called for the area to be demilitarized after meeting with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. But Kyiv and Moscow continue to accuse each other of shelling that nuclear plant, talking about Europe's largest nuclear power plant, the Zaporizhzhia one, stoking international fears of a catastrophe on the continent as Russian President Vladimir Putin said that independent inspectors should visit the Zaporizhzhia plant as soon as possible. Now, Ukraine has accused Russia of storing troops and weapons at the plant and using its grounds to launch strikes against Ukrainian-controlled territory. Ukrainian officials and military analysts say Moscow's forces have cynically employed the plant as a shield, knowing that the Ukrainians would be hesitant to fire back. Russia has denied the accusation and in turn accused Ukrainian forces of repeatedly shelling the plant. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Energodom state nuclear company said Friday that Russian troops plan to disconnect the plant from the Ukrainian power grid, according to Reuters. In a statement, Energodom said that Moscow was preparing to carry out a large-scale provocation there. Moscow asserted Thursday that he was setting up a provocation at the plant following a visit from Ukraine on Thursday. Turkish President Erdogan said that Zelensky has asked him to ensure that Russia remove weapons stored at the plant as an important step for world peace. So, scary situation there happening at the largest nuclear plant in Europe.
Yeah, that is really a very dangerous situation, and the Sunday news shows seem to be saying that there's a lull in the fighting, but that Ukraine is making headway in small increments, partly due to the new artillery that the United States and the NATO allies have provided, and in some cases, according to one analyst, that the dispirited state of the Russian army. You got highly motivated Ukrainians fighting for their country, and you got Russians who are basically don't know why they're there.
Yeah, and not only the Russian army, but the Russian Navy. We've been talking about them in the Black Sea, and Western officials said that Russian Black Sea fleet has gone into a defensive posture after a series of setbacks. They said that at least half of the Black Sea fleet's naval aviation arm had been taken out of action in the attack on Saki Air Base in Crimea last week. The Naval Aviation Arm of the Fleet, 34th Naval Ground Attack Aviation Regiment, has 2 squadrons, roughly 2 dozen combat aircraft altogether, according to published accounts. Previous assessments suggest that at least 7 and maybe as many as 10 aircraft have been damaged or destroyed in that attack. Russia still has dozens of combat planes at 2 other bases in Crimea, but they are not specifically assigned to the Black Sea Fleet. Officials said in a briefing last week that the Russian system was seeking to apportion blame for losses, which the Russian Defense Ministry attributed to an accidental explosion of ammunition on the base. But the official said that Ukrainian side was probably able to bring several assets to bear in Crimea, and the Ukrainian forces do have the ability to operate behind Russian lines. Whether Ukrainian attacks in the south wave have a strategic effect on the conflict would depend on whether Ukraine has sustained a level of activity, they added. But officials said that Russian forces were experiencing problems in resupplying troops in the southern Kherson region, and they estimated that somewhere in the low thousands of additional Russian troops had been moved to the region in preparation for a possible Ukrainian offensive. It remains to be seen how they say how and when the offensive might take shape. But officials said the rise in rocket attacks by Russians against the Kharkiv, which have killed more than a dozen people in recent days, did not presage a Russian offensive in the area, but a desire to prevent the redeployment of Ukrainian defenses elsewhere. But yeah, interesting story there about the Russian fleet in a defensive posture now.
Yeah, they had some of their air wing destroyed on the ground, and the thought is that they are not showing well as far as what their capabilities and tactics are.
And on Friday, the Department of Defense announced an authorization of the Presidential Drawdown Security Assistance provided up to $775 million to meet Ukrainians' critical security and defense needs. This is the 19th drawdown of equipment during the Biden administration from the DoD inventories for Ukraine since August 2021. Now, capabilities in this package include additional ammunition for high mobility artillery rocket systems, the HIMRS. We talked a lot about that system on the show previously. 16 105mm howitzers and 36,000 105mm artillery rounds for those howitzers. Also 15 Scan Eagle unmanned aerial systems, 40 Max Pro mine-resistant ambush protected vehicles with mine rollers, additional high-speed anti-radiation missiles, 50 armored high-mobility multi-purpose wheeled vehicles, 1,500 tube-launched optical track wired-guided missiles, 1,000 Javelin anti-armor systems, 2,000 anti-armor rounds, mine-clearing equipment systems, demolition munitions, tactical secure communication systems, night vision devices, thermal imagery systems, optics, and laser rangefinders. So big package there. In total, the United States has committed approximately $10.6 billion in security assistance to Ukraine since the beginning of the Biden administration. So another big package of weapons and ammunition heading over to Ukraine.
Yeah, a few weeks or a month or so ago, the talk was the Ukrainians were running out of ammunition because they were using every bit they could, and they were at a deficit in comparison to the Russians on ammunition. But now having these more extensive new U.S.-made artillery capabilities seems to be helping.
Indeed, and shifting gears a little bit to the Far East, the Chinese Navy possesses the resources to field up to 5 aircraft carriers and 10 nuclear ballistic missile submarines by 2030, according to a new think tank report on Beijing's ongoing military expansion. Using the computer-assisted strategic choices tool, the Center for Strategic and Budgetary Assessment study, China's choices found that the PLA has the resources necessary to continue its modernization over the 2020s, according to the report. The CSBA assumes that as a starting point, Beijing's military will grow at a rate of 3% above inflation in the early 2030s, according to the tool's models. Now, in explaining the report, how the tool was used, the principal author, Jack Yankee, said that Thursday the CSBA was not trying to predict China's actual defense budget, since Beijing is no longer breaking out equipment, training, and sustainment and personnel costs in figures it releases, but the CSBA also did not try to determine the cost of a frigate or aircraft, rather looked at the military from a broad strategic level. And they use U.S. spending percentages for research and development, procurement, sustainment, and disposal of specific weapon systems, and applied those to China. For the Chinese Navy, this can translate into more frigates, missile boats, and diesel-electric submarines that can be used for regional defense, as well as pressure Taiwan, as China aims to unite that island with the mainland.
Okay.
But for power projection for China's mainland, the report predicts sufficient funds available for aircraft carriers, cruisers, destroyers, blue water logistics, and strategic bombers and transports, refueling aircraft in the 2030s. Scary story there. You're listening to the CaMMVets Radio Report on WVUX 1040 or available on WVUX.com. We'll be right back after 3 Fox News break, so stay tuned.